All right. So we call our podcast asset, not liability, because that's what we want to be. We want to be an asset to our community, to everyone that surrounds us. We want to be the person they know they can turn to if they need whatever it might be. So we always want to be an asset, never a liability. So if that's something you're interested in, that's something you want to develop in yourself, reach out. You can find us at paulsharpcoaching.com. Just go there, send us an email. You can find us on social medias too. Paul Sharp Coaching on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, pretty much everywhere is Paul Sharp Coaching. Just find us, reach out, and we will talk with you and see how we can help you become an asset and not a liability to your community. I thought today we'd talk a little bit about how things can change us, maybe form us into somebody we don't want to be, create walls, barriers, all that stuff, and how we break them down, how we get around that, how do we become more who we want to be and less of who society and the people around us are trying to force us to be, the layers that people put on us, and how do we do that? How do we break all that down? I know you've done it a few times. So
Yeah, I've managed to build a very tall, very thick wall around myself in an effort to try to protect myself from, you know,
Mhm.
getting hurt over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned a lot about myself over the last few years, and one of the lessons that I think I have learned and I'm coming out of now, basically is what I learned by isolating myself, what I learned by building walls around myself. So I went through the the ending of a 24-year relationship, and the end was about 6 years building.
Mhm.
And some pivotal things happened in 2018, 2019 that really destroyed my confidence in people. One of them was literally getting dumped by my friends as
That sounds fun.
as a 40-year-old.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
It was a really fascinating experience.
Yeah.
So I had, my two best friends that we had been building a friendship and investing in our friendship for, I don't know, 12 years, maybe 10 to 15 years. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. Our birthdays fell in line with each other.
Mhm.
And so we always did a big combined event. And 2019 approached, and I was in the thick of, my marriage was really on its last leg.
Mhm.
I was in nursing school, dual enrolled in the honors college, working as an overnight caregiver, working as a research assistant, training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, working out at the rec center at Boise State, running all of the time. And we talked about this in our last episode, but I was incredibly busy, but I was also trying to keep myself as busy as possible,
Yeah.
just keeping my head above water. Well, what this meant to my friends, I mean, I cannot speak for them, but I think maybe they thought that I had abandoned them or something. But, the truth is, I was tired. Every single function with this group of people was centered around the party. I didn't
Mhm.
have time to party.
Mhm.
I did not have any time to lose to partying. I was working so hard.
Yeah.
Well, March came around and I thought, oh gosh, it's almost birthday time. I need to reach out to, my friend because it's my other friend's big one. It was like the big 50.
Yeah.
On the same day that I had that thought, I received an email in my inbox for my friend's the big 50 planned by my other friend and her husband.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh shoot, I got left out of the planning. that's a bummer. They must know that I'm just too busy to help.
Yeah, going to school and everything else.
Yeah. And so I didn't really think much about it. I just sent my RSVP and a little note that I was excited. And I text my friend, was like, oh gosh, this is so exciting. I didn't hear back from her, but I didn't really pay any attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
So a few weeks later, we show up to this event, and it took me about 5 minutes to realize I wasn't part of the event. And throughout the next 3 hours, I just became more and more humiliated, realizing that my friends had literally dumped me and that it was clear to everybody else in the room that I wasn't part of the party. I was invited because they felt obligated to invite me, but I wasn't wanted. And they sent a very, very clear signal that I wasn't wanted or welcome. You know, my friend, I remember running into my friend about 2 hours into the party, and I could tell that she was avoiding me, circulating around me. And I remember like finally sort of running into her, and she just pretended like she was so surprised to see me. And it was one of the most humiliating experiences I have ever had. As an adult woman, for sure. Walking to my car that night and just like sobbing hysterically with embarrassment and humiliation. And it really just destroyed my confidence for a minute. I'm like, I'm a really well-liked person. People like being around me. They like the way that they feel when they're with me. And they sent me a really clear signal that I wasn't wanted, that I wasn't needed. And I wasn't quite sure how to handle that. So I existed in a state of confusion. And then Molly called me a few days later, and she said, I just want to get this off my chest. I just want to tell you that I don't think that I was very supportive of you as a mother when you were when you were having problems with your daughter. And I'm sorry that I wasn't more supportive. I just want to get this off of my chest. And, and I was like, oh, I really appreciate that. Now that you say that, I agree with you. I was going through hard times, and you weren't supportive of me. You were judgmental, you were critical of me and the choices that I was making. So I said, it's almost Thanksgiving. We should hang out, whatever it was, whatever season it was. But what I realized now was that was her goodbye to me. That was her final goodbye. She wanted to get it off of her chest and offer this apology to me, because she was saying goodbye to, a 10+ year investment in this friendship. So then I moved forward into 2020, and then I left my marriage, moved in with my parents. We entered COVID. I was trying to graduate from college, and I had spent all of this time earning cords. I mean, I am a very high achiever. I'm an earner. I love the way that it feels to earn something. So I was really looking forward as a 40+ year old to walking across with my bachelor's degree, all of my cords that I had earned. I had a student leadership award, all of this stuff. And then COVID happened, and I realized that nobody cared. It literally did not matter. It mattered to nobody except for myself. And that was a huge, just a moment where I did not, do I even understand how the world works? I don't know. And it was another, just hit on my level of confidence. And then I just was having this daily struggle of, is this virus going to kill us all? Is it a hoax? Does the mask work? We were in just crisis management, constantly on the verge of waiting for this massive death experience to occur. We're changing the plan every single day. Are we going to have tents in the on the parade grounds filled with bodies, and
Right.
am I going to be some Florence Nightingale, just like helping the sick die? And
Yeah.
man, it was just the most incredibly stressful situation. And so I really lost my trust in people
Yeah.
on a large scope. Like, I can't trust women because they've betrayed me over and over and over again. I can't trust, a 10 plus investment in a friendship when they knew what was happening, but they had no help to offer me, no support to offer me. They abandoned me in my moment of need.
Right.
No confidence in society at large because we got people hoarding toilet paper
Right.
and a government telling us that we have to isolate in our homes. And then a bunch of people virtuous signaling that if we don't wear a mask, then we just don't care about anybody.
Meanwhile, the government officials are having parties with
Right.
hundreds of people and nobody's wearing masks.
Right.
Or they're flying on airplanes to the Obama's house in wherever it is. And nobody's wearing masks.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, so I don't get it.
What's happening?
Am I supposed to be afraid or not?
It just reinforced all of these lack of trust, and then being crisis management. And then you and I are having, forming a long distance relationship, and I'm trying to build that, I mean, you were really, you were the person who was there for me.
Yeah.
And so, but for the last 4 years, though, I have, taken all of those experiences and just like built this brick wall.
Yeah.
It's like people I can't trust, people who've let me down, people who've betrayed me.
Yeah. For
people
sure.
who said they would do something and then didn't.
Yeah.
Just whatever it was. And it's just like the wall got taller and it got thicker. And I started just seeing the potential for betrayal, or the potential for letdown, or the potential for, someone to take advantage of me over and over and over and over again. And then it just was like, well, it's me and it's Paul and my kid. And that's all that matters. Right. And nobody else gets let in.
Just on an island somewhere.
Yeah, we're just on an island somewhere, just taking care of each other.
Right.
But then, speaking with one person in particular, Jessica Sigali, one of our good friends. I mean, you and I have processed this a lot, but you're very much just allowing me to be on my journey with it, for lack of a better word. But Jessica was really pointing out, it's just like, who are you if you don't have people, though?
Right.
You still have to take a risk. You want to have relationships with people. And so, recently my own transformation has been, sure, where did I come from and what did I learn from that and how have I grown from that? But I'm really tired of being isolated.
Yeah.
I really crave being in a community. And so I have the opportunity now to build the community that we want to exist in.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And then, like you were saying before, everything in that old world was centered around the party. Everything was about the next party, the next trip where we're just going to party. Like, everything was an excuse to just abuse some substance.
Yeah, so this is where I feel like you and I are very similar, and why we found each other. I've always wanted to grow. I've always wanted to become better than I was the day before.
Yeah.
I wanted to be more. I wanted to position myself so that I could help people. And what I started to notice was that, it's just, with this group, everything was centered around the party.
Yeah.
And so, some of my friends were successful, some of my friends, living their lives and for all purposes have a good life. But there wasn't a focus on helping,
Yeah.
On helping people grow and become better,
Yeah.
on learning more. I was thinking recently, if somebody said, "What do you do for fun?" Then I would say, "I learn."
Yeah.
I always want to be learning. I always want to be growing. And I just did not see this reflected in the community of people that I was in.
Mhm.
And a lot of cool things were happening, but the connection of just personal growth and challenging ideas and deep conversations and like pushing into the new thing and helping people be more successful. And instead of going on a trip just to get drunk, why not go on a trip to learn, go hear somebody speak,
Yeah.
and then just deep dive into whatever the idea was and figure out how we could grow from that.
Yeah. Or even just you can still do the trips and hikes and all that stuff, but how about we aren't drunk off our ass the whole time and we actually, while we're out there, soak in the vibe, the frequency of nature in those places and actually have deeper conversations, actually think about how this is changing me. Let it change you. Let that part of the world affect you in the way that it's meant to, right? It's meant to raise you. It's meant to call you to a higher level in a lot of ways, right? Like not just that you're actually going higher, but also metaphorically, like you reach a place where things become clearer and you can see better. You have a better perspective. And when you're under the influence and you're wasted and all this stuff, what do you really get from it? You know?
I
And
found myself so the other thing that my group of friends refused to acknowledge was I'm literally allergic to alcohol.
yeah, nice.
you know,
Yeah.
I drink alcohol, I get a migraine. I drink
Yeah.
alcohol, I start puking.
Hmm.
My threshold of tolerance is extremely low. There was a lot of times where I was just pretending
Yeah.
just so that nobody would give me a hard time about it.
Yeah.
What sort of friendship is based on that?
Yeah. What sort of friends make you want to do something that's poisoning you?
No, and I mean the pressure too. I mean, it makes when you decide to get sober, it makes the people around you who are not extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, they get weird about it.
They get very, very weird about it. And so they want to look at a sober person and think that, oh, the sober person thinks that they're on some high horse and they're better than everybody else,
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no,
Why does my decision have anything to do with yours?
yeah, I'm just over
Right.
I'm having a great time.
I'm good. You go be good.
Yeah, don't worry about
It's
what I'm doing.
interesting, right? And you think about it too, everything's based around the party, everything's based around, and I've been around those people where everything was about when are we going to start drinking? And when are we going to start doing this? Or when are we start doing that? Missing completely everything that we could be doing. And also missing what's going on right now in this moment. That's pretty darn cool. We're doing some cool stuff, but you can't see it because all you can think about is the fun doesn't start until you start to get buzzed. That's a terrible way to live. You're missing out on so much. And then when we talk about the hangovers, diminished capacity, inability to move at your optimal levels because you're just under this haze of, and about the time you start to come out of it, that's when the next party happens. And they're right back in it again. So you look at these people and you think, man, you accomplish a lot, not because of, in spite of.
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. You accomplished a lot, not because of, but in spite of.
Yeah.
Imagine how much more you could have done.
Imagine what you
if
could
you
have
were
done
clear.
without it.
Mhm.
Imagine what you could do without it. Imagine what life would look like without it. And I think for a lot of people, they've never had that moment. They've never had that clarity. They've never been clear long enough to get it. to really experience it and understand it. And I wonder, in hindsight now, how much of an effect do you think that people being under the influence of whatever the party, right, whatever they're partying with, had on their ability to actually be there for you, or you to be there for them? How are you supposed to, yeah, like how do you think that affected all that's how everything played out? Like if you're no longer part of the party and you're no longer, like, you're making moves, you're going to college, you're going to school to better yourself, to move into a different career, to change paths. You are burning all the boats and moving into this other place. And these are also people who are telling you that the situation you're in with your relationship, you need to go. You need to get out of it. You need to save yourself. But that also means maybe they need to look at their own situation and be honest about what they're seeing and what's going on with their situation. What effect do you think? Obviously, you can't change outcomes, but how different do you think things would have been if they also would have been sober?
Yeah, I mean that's hard because you can't change outcomes, but I think being clear and
Mm-hmm.
having a clear I so I think it creates sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a similar situation as you did where it's on this day I had people saying, like, oh, these things aren't okay.
Mm-hmm.
These things need to change. You need to do this.
Right.
But then once I made the decision, then it was like, I can't believe this is what you're
Yeah, I
doing.
can't believe you do this.
And I feel like, the defining feature was they couldn't align with me because I had gotten sober. I had grown, like,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't grow together, we grew apart.
Yeah.
But they could align with the other side because they had something in common.
Yeah, they're still
And that
partying.
was the party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can kind of see though, because by moving into circles that aren't doing that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that, we were at this event, this past weekend, nobody was drinking. They had a cigar guy there, high-end cigar bar, whatever you would call it, where people were sampling these cigars and stuff. But everybody there is about fitness, about family, about relationships, about becoming more, more of whatever is positive, become more of that, be better at everything. So we kind of do, in a way, have an A B group where we can look at these guys keep repeating the same mistakes. These guys keep doing the same stuff. I can see these guys, like, how many more times am I going to be at a party where something stupid happens because people are drunk, versus this group where everything is about becoming better at who you are and who you were supposed to be and whatever it takes to get there. Whether it's more college, more training at your job, getting into, if you're, say, a plumber, getting into a group with other plumbers, like a business group where you guys can, like, feed off each other and share, hey, this works, this doesn't work, even machinery. We heard conversations where HVAC guys were talking about, we're using this now to bend the metal and make the duct work and all that stuff. And, oh yeah, I've seen that. I didn't know if it was worth the investment. And the guy's like, dude, it's worth the investment. It's 10 grand, but you will make it back on your next two jobs, just in, production times and quality. Just being around people like that, where everybody's talking about how to get better, but not only how do I get better, but how do I help you get better? So if I help you get better, it's going to motivate me to get better. And we're going to constantly push each other, versus this other situation where it's just negative and heavy. And if you try to break out, like that old story about crabs in a bucket, you don't need to put a lid on a bucket. And I grew up on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. So I grew up around watermen. And watermen are oyster, clam, crabs, and then fish, like if they go out in the Atlantic, you know. But growing up around that, I know exactly what they're talking about. You don't have to do a whole lot to keep crabs in a bucket because they'll take care of it. You know what I mean? They will literally tear you apart if you try to climb out.
Mhm.
And so seeing that in real life as a kid, seeing it, having my uncles and the other guys who are watermen, fishermen say, you don't have to worry about it. They'll take care of it. They'll keep each other in there. And then seeing it like in a metaphorical sense where it's just people. And I would be interested in your thoughts on that because you've seen now both sides of it. You've seen the other side of it where it's all about helping people and growing and pushing each other to grow. And you've been around enough of pretty much all of our circles now, whether it's a Straight Blast Gym or whatever group, you know, we're around. When we're around these people, how the conversations are centered. And then you've been around the other two where maybe it wasn't so much about growth, but just the party.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have to find the environment that matters to us, and sometimes sometimes the environment's got to change.
Yeah.
And I know that I needed a stronger partner. I needed somebody who wanted to grow with me, and I needed friends that I could trust, that we were, you know, like growing together
Mhm.
through, you know, whatever it was, adversity or desire, you know, whatever it was. And I didn't have those things. And I hope everybody's happy. I hope everybody's, you know, living the life that they want to live. Great.
Right.
But it's not an environment that I could exist in. But it also had a deep impact on me. And it has taken me years to grapple with everything that I experienced, you know,
Mhm.
who I was, who I became, you know, the parts that I liked and wanted to carry forward versus the parts that I became and made excuses for.
Mhm.
It put me into this phase of just extreme accountability. What were the ugly parts of myself that came out? How did I demonstrate what was happening to me versus what I was creating? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's gets kind of confusing, but then just I don't keep in touch with anybody. I literally burned my entire life down.
Yeah.
Paul, you sent me a picture early on, and I think it's actually a video game graphic.
Yeah.
And it's this completely burned out landscape in the background.
Mhm.
Everything, it has been detonated, burned out, black skeletal.
Yeah.
And there's a woman, and she's got a samurai sword strapped to her back,
Mhm.
and a rifle on her front. Glove is off of her trigger finger,
Mhm.
and she's got this massive tiger
Mhm.
walking beside her just behind.
Yeah.
And you told me, this is how I see you. This is how I see us.
Yeah.
You just blew apart your entire life.
Yeah.
And burned who you are completely to the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm here beside you, just behind. I'm always here if you need me.
Yeah.
And that was such a powerful image for me.
Yeah.
And it is totally representative of what I did and who I have been for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
But I'm also at that stage of development too, where I'm not looking at the landscape behind me anymore.
Mhm.
And I'm not afraid of what I'm walking into
Mhm.
because I have you literally right here.
Yeah.
But what I see forward now is just like whatever we build, whatever we create, whatever landscape we want to see, and the people who populate it are the people that we've decided belong, that we want, that we know have insane potential for growth, and that we just keep building each other. And that's who I want to, that's what I'm ready for now.
Yeah.
Like building relationships and breaking down those walls
Yeah.
and not being isolated anymore.
Yeah. So how do you go about breaking down those walls? So if somebody were to come to you and say, "Listen, these are the things that happened to me. I got burned. I don't want to go through this again." You know, what would you say to them? Like, how do they move forward? How do they get back? You know, they burnt down their old world. They knew that wasn't where they wanted to be. They're moving forward, trying to find the opposite of what they didn't want to be, right? What would you say to them?
Well, I think what I have developed during this time of isolation is first of all boundaries and trusting my instincts. You can't trust your intuition if you haven't developed it, and you can't enforce boundaries if you haven't developed them.
Yeah.
And so I think I have a better sense of who I am, but I also have a better sense of who people are. I've been watching.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. But for me, it's just not making excuses. So I'm an introvert. That's fine. I can't use being an introvert as an excuse to shut down and avoid people.
Right.
I have to just say, like, I'm an introvert. And when I go through my recharge, it's got to be a compelling recharge. When I'm around people, though, I have to be totally and completely intentional, present, and aware while I'm with them. So my personal goals are show up with energy, my genuine and authentic energy. They are talk to everyone in the room.
Yeah.
You know, show up with a really high vibe and a genuine interest in talking to everybody in the room and getting to know them and connecting with them. I'm a very good connector. It's one of my strengths. I know and I enjoy connecting with people. And so it's just kind of coming back into that part of myself and not making excuses anymore. Oh, I've been betrayed. I had trust breakdown, whatever. Fine. Went through the pain of that, have grown, time to move on and be my dynamic self and relational with these people. That's my goal.
Yeah, and just trust your gut on picking people moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I learned.
Yep.
You know, and also I think too, what a lot of people don't think about is that moving forward, because I'm moving in a different direction, the people that are going to end up in my circle are going to be more like me. They're going to be more into what I'm into and trying to do what I'm trying to do. So it'll be easier for them to be part of what I'm doing. You know, it's not two distinctly different worlds pulling against each other.
Right.
You know. So,
thank you.
Thank you. No, I think it was a good conversation. I think people need to think more about how we put these walls together, how we isolate ourselves, and then also how do we take those walls down and let people in, and how do we find our people?
Yeah.
Basically.